I'm Dorothy Williams. I'm 68 years old and I've learned that blood isn't thicker than water. It's just harder to clean up when it spills. I gave my daughter and her husband over $2 million in bailouts, loans, and secret investments, and in return, they handed me a glass of champagne spiked with the neurotoxin. They looked at me and saw a senile old checkbook waiting to be emptied, a relic they could discard in a nursing home. They didn't know I had high-definition cameras recording their every move, or that I still owned the very building they were trying to humiliate me in. By tomorrow morning, their inheritance will be zero. They will be drowning in debt, and I will be the one watching them crumble. If you're watching this video, tell me where you're from or what time it is for you. I sat in the leather chair that had molded to my spine over 4 decades. It groaned as I shifted my weight, a familiar sound of protest. Across the desk, the paperwork for the sale of Williams Logistics lay in a neat stack. 40 years of grit, diesel fumes, and missed dinners, all condensed into a single signature and a wire transfer number. "Mom, seriously, you need to let us handle this junk," Jessica said. My daughter stood by the bookshelf, holding my Logistics Woman of the Decade award by its crystal neck like it was a dead bird. She looked at it with a mixture of boredom and disdain. "It's heavy," she muttered, tossing it into a cardboard box marked "Donate." "You won't have room for this dust catcher in the condo." "Careful, Jessica," I said, forcing my voice to sound thin and reedy. I let my hand tremble slightly as I reached for my coffee mug. "That was from the mayor." "It's clutter, Dorothy," Brandon chimed in. He was standing by the window, tapping furiously on his phone. He didn't even look up. "We're trying to streamline your life. Retirement means letting go. Less stuff, less stress." Brandon used my first name. He always did. It was a power move, a subtle way of putting us on the same level, or perhaps putting me slightly below him. He was dressed in a sharp navy blazer that probably cost more than my first delivery truck. "Brandon's right, Mom," Jessica said, taping the box shut with aggressive rips of the dispenser. "You're moving to a smaller space. You need to be practical. You won't have the capacity to manage all this history." Capacity, a polite word for brain power. They were already practicing the narrative. Poor Dorothy. She just doesn't have the capacity anymore. I watched them. They moved around my office like vultures circling a carcass that wasn't quite dead yet. Jessica with her soft hands, an expensive watch, paid for by my loans. Brandon with his shark-like efficiency. They thought they were clearing out a senile old woman's office. They didn't know they were clearing out a crime scene before the crime had even been committed. "The condo," I murmured, looking confused. "Right, the one near the park." Brandon sighed, a sound of performative patience. He walked over and patted my shoulder. His touch was light, cold, and utterly insincere. "No, Dorothy, the assisted living facility. We talked about this. Remember the one with the 24-hour staff? It's for your safety." "Safety," I repeated, letting my eyes lose focus. "Right, safety. It's better this way," Jessica said, avoiding my eyes. She picked up a framed photo of Thomas, my late husband. She stared at it for a second, a flicker of guilt crossing her face before placing it face down in the box. "Dad would have wanted you to be safe." That was the trigger. The mention of Thomas. Rage flared in my gut, hot and sharp, but I swallowed it down. I clamped my jaw shut and nodded. "Okay," I whispered. "If you say so." "We do," Brandon said, checking his watch. "And now, hurry up. We have to get these boxes to storage before the party tomorrow. Speaking of which, did you find that scarf I bought you?" "The blue one?" I asked. "The patterned one," he corrected, his voice tightening. "Wear it. And the gray dress." "The old one? It makes you look approachable." Approachable, another code word. It meant frail. It meant harmless. He wanted me to look like a victim. "I'll find it," I promised. "Good," he said. "We're going to grab lunch. You stay here and rest. Don't overexert yourself." They grabbed 2 boxers and walked out. I waited until the heavy oak door clicked shut. I waited another 10 seconds. Then, I stood up. My posture straightened. The tremor in my hand vanished. I walked to the window and watched them head toward Jessica's car in the parking lot. "Safe," I said to the empty room. "We'll see who's safe." An hour later, I was still in the office, but I wasn't packing. I was hunting. I had overheard them earlier, whispering in the hallway while I pretended to nap in my chair. Brandon had been nervous, his voice pitched high. "Are you sure it's enough? What if she tastes it?" Jessica had been dismissive. "It's tasteless, and she chugs that cheap champagne like water. Just stick to the plan." I needed proof. I needed to know exactly what I was dealing with. They had left Brandon's leather messenger bag on the sofa in the reception area. He had complained about the weight of it and left it behind when they went to load the car, saying he'd grab it on the second trip. I walked out to reception. The office was empty. I had given my assistant the week off. I unzipped the bag. It was a chaotic mess of business cards, receipts, and breath mints. I dug deeper. My fingers brushed against something hard and plastic. I pulled it out. It was a small amber-colored prescription vial. No label. I held it up to the light. Inside was a fine white powder. It looked like sugar, but it moved differently. Heavier, denser. I carefully unscrewed the cap. There was no safety seal. I sniffed it. Nothing. Absolutely odorless. I walked back into my private office and opened the safe behind my desk. I pulled out a magnifying glass and a small testing kit I kept for inspecting unknown chemical residues on freight shipments, a habit from the old days when we hauled industrial cleaners. I tapped a few grains onto a slide. I didn't have a full lab, but I knew basic chemistry. I touched a wet reagent strip to the powder. It turned a dark, angry purple. Benzodiazepines, high concentration, crushed pills, enough in this vial to knock out a horse, or stop an old woman's heart if mixed with enough alcohol. My heart hammered against my ribs. They weren't just trying to embarrass me. They were risking my life. If I passed out at the party, or went into respiratory arrest, they'd have their narrative. Dorothy is failing. She needs a conservator. She needs us to control the money. I looked at the powder. I could call the police right now, but it was just a vial in a bag. He could claim it was anything. He could claim I planted it. No, I needed to catch them in the act, but I couldn't leave this here. I went to the break room kitchenette. I grabbed a handful of sugar packets. I went back to my desk. Carefully, painstakingly, I dumped the toxic powder into a Ziploc bag I found in my desk drawer. I sealed it and taped it to the underside of my desk chair. Then I opened the sugar packets. I poured the white crystals into the amber vial. I filled it to the exact same level. I screwed the cap back on. I shook it. It looked identical. I walked back to the reception area and slid the vial back into the side pocket of Brandon's messenger bag, exactly where I had found it. I stood there for a moment, breathing hard. I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. Go ahead, Brandon. Pour it in my glass. I'll drink it. I'll smile. And when nothing happens, when I stand up and deliver the speech of a lifetime, I will watch your face crumble. I had neutralized the weapon. I was safe. $40 million. Vanessa said. She didn't blink. We were in her office on the 40th floor of the Skyline Tower. The city of Chicago was a gray grid below us. Vanessa was my oldest friend and the most expensive lawyer in the state. She was wearing a suit that cost more than my first house. $40 million, I confirmed. The entire proceeds from the sale, plus the liquid assets. It all goes to the Thomas Williams Foundation. Vanessa leaned back, tapping her pen on the mahogany desk. And Jessica gets zero. Well, legally zero, I said. I was going to leave her a stipend, but after what I found today, I told her about the vial, the powder, the test. Vanessa's face went pale. She stopped tapping the pen. Dorothy, this is attempted murder. We need to go to the cops. Now. Not yet, I said. No, I swapped it. It's sugar now. They're going to try to poison me with sweetener. You're playing a dangerous game, Vanessa warned. If they're desperate enough to try this, they are desperate, I said. I ran Jessica's credit. She's drowning. And Brandon, his family is pressuring him. They need this money. They need me incapacitated so they can challenge the trust. So you let them humiliate themselves. I let them expose themselves. I corrected. I want it on video. I want undeniable proof of intent. If we go to the cops now with a bag of powder I scraped out of a messenger bag, it's messy. If we have video of him pouring it into my drink, that's a conviction. Vanessa sighed, rubbing her temples. You want cameras? I want the pavilion wired for sound and video, I said. Especially table 1 and the mirror. There's a big gilt mirror on the east wall. I want a camera aimed right at the reflection. I know the owner. He owes me a favor, Vanessa said. We can get a security team in there tonight to upgrade the surveillance system. But Dorothy, are you sure about the swap? You're absolutely sure you got it all. I emptied the vial. Vanessa, I scrubbed it. It's sugar. I'm safe. I was so confident. I was so incredibly arrogant. Fine, Vanessa said. I'll set it up, but I'm having a team on standby, and I'm coming to the hospital. If she tries anything else, if you slip up, we need a protocol. The protocol is, I drink the sugar water, I give my speech, and then we drop the hammer. I signed the papers. The donation was locked and loaded, set to execute at 9 a.m. Monday morning. One more thing, I said, standing up. Does the hospital know? I'll alert the legal department at Northwestern Memorial, Vanessa said. I'll tell them we suspect a medical incident involving a VIP client and we need chain of custody on any samples. They'll be ready. Good. I buttoned my coat. It's showtime. That evening I was back home in the large empty house I used to share with Thomas. The silence was usually heavy, but tonight it felt electric. But Brandon came over around 7 p.m. He was alone. Hey Dorothy, he called out, letting himself in. Just checking on you. I was in the kitchen drinking tea. Hello Brandon, just resting. He walked in, his shoes clicking on the tile. He looked tense, his eyes darting around the room. He reached into his messenger bag, the same bag from the office, and pulled out a small plastic bottle. It wasn't the amber vial. It was a generic white bottle of multivitamins. I brought you these, he said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. There, for energy. With the big night tomorrow, I thought you might need a boost. I stared at the bottle. Vitamins, just B12 and some herbal stuff, he said. Take 2 before you go to bed and maybe 2 before the party. I took the bottle. It was sealed. I looked at him. He was smiling, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. Thank you, Brandon, I said. You're very thoughtful. I just want you to be at your best, he said. We all do. He lingered for a moment, watching me. Did you go into my bag earlier at the office? My blood ran cold. Had he seen me? Had I left a trace? Your bag? I asked, looking confused. No. Why? He studied my face. I kept my expression slack, my mouth slightly open, the perfect picture of a befuddled old woman. No reason, he said quickly. I just thought I moved it. Never mind. Get some sleep, Dorothy. He turned and left. I waited until I heard his car drive away. I opened the white bottle. It was just vitamins. I smelled them. I tasted one. Chalk and B12. Harmless, I frowned. Why give me harmless vitamins if he had the poison in the amber vial? Maybe the amber vial was for the drink and this was just a prop to make him look caring. Or maybe he wanted to establish a pattern of giving me supplements, in case anyone asked. That it didn't matter. I knew where the real weapon was. It was in his bag, filled with sugar. I went to bed, sleeping the sleep of a woman who thinks she has checkmated her opponent. I had no idea I was playing the wrong game. Saturday, 6:30 p.m., Jessica drove. I sat in the passenger seat of her Mercedes. Brandon was in the back. The car smelled of leather and tension. You look good, Mom, Jessica said. Her knuckles were white on the steering wheel. She was driving 10 miles under the limit. Thanks, sweetheart, I said. I pulled at the polyester scarf Brandon had bought me. It was garish, a swirling mess of neon blue and yellow. This scarf is tight. It's modern, Brandon said from the back seat. His voice was sharp. Stop fidgeting. I looked in the side mirror. Brandon was staring out the window, chewing on his thumbnail. He looked like he was about to vomit. Are you okay, Brandon? I asked. I'm fine, he snapped. Then softer, just nervous. It's a big night. All your old partners will be there. Yes, I said. Jasper and Raymond, good people. And my father, he added. Richard is flying in. Lovely man, I lied. He's excited to celebrate your transition, Brandon said. Transition from CEO to vegetable. We pulled up to the pavilion. The valet opened the door. The restaurant was a fortress of gold light and marble columns. It was aggressive in its luxury. Here we go, Jessica whispered. She looked like she was walking to the gallows. Chin up, Jessica, I said, patting her arm. It's a party. The crowd was loud. A string quartet was fighting a losing battle against the roar of conversation from 200 guests. Crystal chandeliers the size of small cars hung from the ceiling. We walked in. Heads turned. I saw pity in some eyes, respect in others. I shuffled my feet, hunching my shoulders. I became the old woman they expected. Dorothy. Richard was holding court at the main table. He was a man built of expensive cologne, gold cufflinks, and arrogance. He sat on a velvet banquet, like a king on a throne. Next to him was Patricia, his wife, a woman who looked like she had been slowly eroded over 30 years of marriage. Richard, I said, bowing slightly. You look expensive. He laughed, a sound like ice cracking. And you, Dorothy, you look authentic. He gestured to my dress. Is that the charcoal wool? I haven't seen that fabric since the 90s. It's comfortable, I said. I'm sure, he purred. Sit next to me. I want to hear all about your retirement home. I sat. The table was set with enough silverware to perform surgery. It's not a home, Dad, Jessica said weakly. It's a facility. Same difference. Richard dismissed her with a wave of his hand. The point is, Dorothy is stepping down, making way for the youth. He looked at Brandon and winked. So, Dorothy, Richard turned to me. Are you ready to give it all up? The stress, the decisions. I think so, I said. My mind isn't what it used to be. We know, he said, patting my hand. His rings dug into my skin. Brandon tells us everything. The forgetfulness, the confusion. It's a kindness, really, taking the burden away. I looked around the table. Jasper and Raymond were at the far end, looking concerned. They waved. I gave a weak smile. Champagne. Richard yelled at a passing waiter. We need champagne for the toast. Brandon stiffened. I'll handle it, Father. Nonsense. Let the girl do it, Richard said. No, Brandon said, his voice rising. I have a special bottle. I ordered it specifically. I'll pour it. He stood up. He was wearing a tailored suit that looked like a weapon against the gold decor. He grabbed the bottle from the ice bucket stand. He picked up the empty glasses. One for you, Father, he said, placing a glass. One for Patricia, one for Jessica. He came to me. And a special glass for the woman of the hour, he said. He placed the crystal flute in front of me. He turned his back to the table, shielding the glass with his body. Oops, he dropped his clutch wallet. The leather case hit the floor. Clumsy me, he said. He bent down. This was it. The moment. I didn't look at him. I looked at the mirror. The massive gilt mirror on the east wall was perfectly angled. I could see his back. I could see his hands. I watched, waiting for the satisfaction of seeing him pull out the amber vial, the one filled with sugar. I was ready to stifle a laugh. He reached into his wallet. His hand didn't go to any pocket where the amber vial would be. His hand went to the clasp of the wallet. He twisted a small decorative metal stud on the corner. The stud detached. It wasn't a stud. It was a tiny silver cylinder. A hidden compartment. My heart stopped. He unscrewed the top of the silver cylinder. He poured a fine grayish powder into my glass. It wasn't the sugar. It wasn't the amber vial. The amber vial was a decoy, a dummy he had left out to test me, or maybe just a backup he had discarded. He hadn't used it. He had the real poison hidden in the hardware of his wallet the entire time. I felt the blood drain from my face. I wasn't acting anymore. The terror was real. I had swapped the wrong vial. The powder in my glass, the gray dust dissolving into the bubbles right now, was real. It was the benzo cocktail, or worse. He stood up, screwing the silver stud back onto his wallet. He smiled at me. There, he said, found it. He poured the champagne into the glass. The liquid fizzed, masking the last of the powder. A toast, he announced, his voice trembling with excitement, to Dorothy. I sat there, frozen. My hands were under the table, clenched into fists so tight my nails broke the skin. I had miscalculated. I had been arrogant. And now I was staring at a glass of chemical lobotomy. If I didn't drink it, the plan failed. They would just try again later. If I drank it, I might die, or at least end up drooling on myself while they signed the papers. I had to think. I had 10 seconds. Richard was beaming. To Dorothy, he screeched, raising his glass. Jessica looked sick. She was staring at my glass like it was a loaded gun. I looked at the mirror again. The camera was there, hidden in the sconce. It had recorded the pour. It had recorded the silver cylinder. I had the evidence, but I needed to survive the toast. I couldn't just spill it. That was too clumsy. It would end the night, but it wouldn't punish them. I needed the event to continue. I needed the speech. I looked at Richard. He was greedy. He was vain. He wanted everything that was mine. An idea formed. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was perfect. Wait, I said. My voice was stronger than I intended. I cleared my throat and dialed it back to the frail old woman's setting. Wait, please. I stood up. My legs felt like lead, but I moved. Brandon, I said, looking at him. That was a lovely pour. He stared at me, confused. Drink, Dorothy. We're toasting in a moment, I said. I picked up the poisoned glass. The crystal was cool against my fingers. I could see the tiny bubbles rising. Death in a tuxedo. I turned to Richard. Richard, I said, you know, this night, it's really about family. Of course it is, he said, impatient. Drink up. And you, I continued, taking a step toward him, you are the patriarch of this family. You raised Brandon. You guided Jessica. I was standing right next to him now. He looked up, flattered but annoyed by the delay. You have always had the finest taste, I said. The best clothes, the best jewelry. True, he preened, touching his cufflinks. And, I said, lowering my voice to a conspiratorial whisper, I feel bad. This glass. Brandon gave me the first pour, the best pour, but really, a man of your stature, you should have the honor. I saw the greed flicker in his eyes. It was primal. He always wanted the best of everything. If I had it, he wanted it. While he said, it is customary. Please, I said, take mine. It's a symbol of my respect. I held the poisoned glass out to him. Brandon's eyes went wide. His mouth opened. No, he squeaked. It was involuntary, a spasm of panic. Brandon, Richard snapped, turning to his son, don't be rude. Dorothy is being a lady. But that's her glass, Brandon stammered. It's special. Special? Richard laughed. It's champagne, son. Don't be stingy. He reached out. His manicured fingers closed around the stem of my glass. I accept, Richard announced grandly. He took the poisoned glass from my hand. I reached down and picked up his untouched glass from the tablecloth. To family, I said. Brandon looked like he was having a stroke. He stood up, knocking his chair back. Dad, don't sit down, Richard barked. You are making a scene. Look at you, shouting at a dinner party. Brandon froze. He looked at the camera. He didn't know it was there, but he felt the eyes of the room. He looked at Jessica, who was hyperventilating into her napkin. He looked at me, and in my eyes, he saw zero confusion. He saw ice. He sat down slowly. To family, Richard repeated. He tilted his head back. He drained the glass. I watched his throat work. Swallow, swallow, swallow. He finished it and slammed the glass down. Delicious, he declared. Notes of almond. Bitter almond, I murmured. What? Nothing. To new beginnings. I sipped from my clean glass. The clock on the wall read 8:05 p.m. The metabolism of a man Richard's size, combined with the alcohol. 15 minutes, maybe 20. I had 20 minutes to destroy them before the ambulance arrived. The speech. Patricia clapped her hands. Speech, Dorothy. I walked to the podium. The microphone whined with feedback. I looked out at the sea of faces. 200 people. My employees, my rivals, my family. I took the index cards out of my pocket, the ones Jessica had written for me, full of platitudes about passing the torch. I tore them in half. The sound of the ripping paper echoed through the microphone. A hush fell over the room. I prepared some remarks. I said, my voice was clear, strong. The tremor was gone. But I think I'll speak from the heart. Jessica looked up from the table. She looked terrified. I built Williams Logistics with one truck and a loan I couldn't afford. I began. I learned early on that trust is the most expensive commodity on earth. You can buy trucks, you can buy fuel, but you cannot buy loyalty. I looked directly at table 1. Tonight I was supposed to announce my retirement. I was supposed to tell you that I am tired, that I am confused, that I am ready to fade away. I paused, but looking at you all tonight, I feel remarkably awake. Brandon was gripping the tablecloth. He was watching his father. Richard was swaying slightly in his seat, blinking rapidly. My daughter, Jessica. I pointed to her. The spotlight swung to her. She shrank back. Jessica has always been eager to help, eager to take over. And my son-in-law Brandon. He has been so solicitous, always concerned about my health, my vitamins. I smiled, a shark smile. They taught me a valuable lesson this week. They taught me that you never really know someone until you have something they want. And when they want it bad enough, they will do anything to get it. Richard let out a loud hiccup. It sounded like a bark. Excuse me, he yelled. His words were slurred. Is it hot? Who turned up the heat? He tugged at his silk tie. The heat is rising, I agreed into the microphone, but I think it's just getting started. Richard stood up. He knocked his chair over. The walls, he announced, they're dripping. The room went silent. Dad, Brandon whispered. Don't you dad me? Richard screamed. He spun around. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated to pin. I see you. I see what you are. He pointed at a waiter, a young woman holding a tray of appetizers. Thief, he shrieked. She has my eyes. Give me back my eyes. He lunged at the chaos was instantaneous. Richard, a man of high society, tackled the waiter. The tray went flying. Shrimp cocktails rained down on the alderman's wife at the next table. Richard, Patricia yelled, grabbing his arm. Get off me, he roared. He possessed a sudden, chemically induced strength. He shoved Patricia. She flew backward into the dessert cart. Demon, he howled at the chandelier. Stop looking at me. Brandon was on his feet. paralyzed. He wasn't moving to help. He was watching me. I stood at the podium, unmoving. A sentinel. Is there a doctor? Someone yelled, call 911. Richard was now on the floor, thrashing. He was tearing at his expensive suit. It burns. The silver burns. I stepped down from the stage. I walked calmly through the pandemonium to table 1. I leaned down to Brandon's ear. The silver cylinder, I whispered. He froze. I saw it, I said, and now the paramedics will see the results. He looked at me with pure horror, not guilt, horror. You, he breathed. You switched. No, I said. You missed. The waiting room of Northwestern Memorial Hospital was a bleak landscape of fluorescent lights and gray linoleum. It smelled of antiseptic and fear. Jessica was pacing, her heels clicking. Brandon sat on a plastic chair, his suit stained with wine and shrimp sauce from the Malay. I sat opposite them. I looked calm. I was reading a brochure about heart health. How can you be so calm? Jessica hissed. He's in there. God knows what's happening. The doctors are excellent, I said. It was a stroke, Jessica said, trying to convince herself. Or an allergic reaction. Or poison, I said. Don't say that, Brandon snapped. His voice was brittle. Don't you dare say that word. The double doors swung open. Patricia walked out. She looked gray. Dr. Thorne says he's stable. Patricia said. They pumped his stomach, but he's hallucinating. Violent. They had to restrain him. What caused it? Jessica asked. Patricia looked around. She lowered her voice. Thorne is a friend of the family. He says it looks like a severe toxic reaction. But I told him we can't have a scandal. I watched Patricia carefully. The woman had no spine, but she had a checkbook. I offered to make a donation to the hospital's new wing. Patricia whispered to Brandon. Thorne agreed to list it as acute food poisoning on the official report. We'll deal with the detox privately at the Swiss clinic. I felt a surge of disgust. Of course, they were going to buy their way out of it. Even attempted murder could be swept under the rug if you had enough money. Is he doing the toxicology screen? Brandon asked, hope rising in his voice. He pulled the blood, Patricia said, but he's going to misplace the vials. No samples, no proof. Brandon let out a long breath. Thank God. Smart, Jessica said. We just need to get him out of here. They thought they had won. They thought the system was built for them. I stood up. I'm going to get some coffee. I walked toward the nurse's station. I needed to act. If Thorne destroyed the blood, my video was just a video of powder. A defense lawyer could argue it was sugar or salt or anything. I needed the biological link. I saw a nurse walking by with a tray of samples. He had tired eyes and a kind face. His name tag read Marcus. I recognized him, not from the hospital, but from a file. 5 years ago, an employee at my warehouse had died in an accident. I had set up a scholarship fund for his son to go to nursing school. I had never met him, but I had seen his photo in the annual reports. Marcus, I asked. He stopped. He looked at me. Recognition dawned slowly. Mrs. Williams, he asked. Dorothy Williams. Yes, I said. Oh my God, he said. I never got to thank you in person. The scholarship, I wouldn't be here without you. You're welcome, Marcus, I said. I looked at the tray he was holding. Are you working the trauma unit? Yes, ma'am. It's a crazy night. That man, Mr. Mitchell, Richard, he's a handful. Marcus, I said, lowering my voice. I need your help. It's a matter of life and death and justice. He looked at my face. He saw the seriousness. What do you need? Dr. Thorne is about to destroy the blood samples from Richard Mitchell. He's covering up a crime. His eyes widened. He can't do that. That's illegal. He's being paid to do it, I said. I need you to secure those samples, the real ones, before they vanish. He hesitated for only a second. He looked at the VIP room where Thorne was huddled with Patricia. He looked at me, the woman who had paid for his education when he had nothing. I drew the backup files myself, he whispered. They're in the refrigerated lockbox at the station. Thorne doesn't have the key. I do. Keep them safe, I said. My lawyer is coming with the police. Give them only to Detective Miller. Consider it done, he said. He squeezed my hand. I got you. Unexpected ally secured. The corruption was checkmated by kindness. I walked back to the waiting area. Brandon was standing now, looking energized by the news of the cover-up. He saw me approaching and his fear turned into aggression. He decided to go on the offensive. You, he hissed. He pointed a finger at me. This is your fault. My fault. I asked. You stressed him out, he shouted. He was building a scene, trying to control the narrative again. You and your stupid speech. You drove him to this. Brandon, Keep your voice down, Jessica pleaded. No, he screamed. No, he screamed. She's toxic, she's senile, and she's dangerous. She shouldn't be alone. He was projecting. He was hysterical. You think you're so smart, he spat, stepping closer, but you're just a confused old woman. You probably contaminated the glasses yourself with your shaking hands. Is that right? I asked calmly. Yes, he yelled. You switched them. You know you did this to him. The waiting room went silent. I switched them. I asked, so you admit there was something to switch? He froze. He had walked right into it. I meant the automatic doors slid open. Vanessa walked in. She was flanked by 2 uniformed officers and a man in a trench coat. Detective Miller. Brandon turned. Seeing the police, a look of triumph crossed his face. He thought they were his salvation. Officers, he screamed. Thank God. Arrest her. Arrest that woman. He pointed at me. She poisoned my father. She admitted it. She's insane. Detective Miller walked past him without a glance. He walked straight to the nurse's station. Marcus was waiting. He handed him a sealed biohazard bag containing 2 vials of blood. Chain of custody established. Miller said, time, 9:42 p.m. He turned and walked toward us. What is that? Brandon asked, his voice trembling. That, Vanessa said, stepping forward, is the evidence that your father ingested a lethal dose of benzodiazepines. The evidence Dr. Thorne was just paid to destroy. Brandon's face went white. Patricia came running out of the trauma room. What's going on? Who are you? Vanessa Harper, attorney at law, Vanessa said, and we are here to discuss attempted murder. Jessica squeaked. No, it was food poisoning. We have the video, Jessica, I said. I pulled out the tablet Vanessa had handed me. I held it up. The footage from the pavilion played. High definition, crystal clear. We saw Brandon drop the wallet. We saw the silver cylinder. We saw the powder fall into the glass. We saw the switch. Brandon stared at the screen. He made a sound like a dying animal. That's fake, he whispered. It's time-stamped, Vanessa said. It's admissible, and combined with the blood Marcus just secured, it's a 20-year sentence. Detective Miller stepped forward. Brandon Mitchell. He shook his head. No, it was vitamins. It was just vitamins. Then why did you hide it in a secret compartment? I asked. He looked at Jessica. Help me? Jessica looked at the video. She looked at her husband. She looked at the floor. I didn't know, she whispered. Mom, I swear I didn't know it was poison. But you knew he was drugging me, I said. You drove the car. You watched him pour. I thought it would just make you sleepy, she sobbed. Just enough to mess up the speech, to prove you needed help. Conspiracy to commit assault, Vanessa noted. Also a felony. Miller took out his cuffs. Brandon Mitchell, please turn around. Nope, he screamed. He tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The officers grabbed him. The click of the handcuffs was the loudest sound in the room. Jessica, he shrieked as they dragged him away. Call my lawyer. Get the money. Fix this. Jessica stood there weeping, a woman-child watching her world burn. I can't, she whispered. We don't have any money. Sunday morning, 9 a.m., the boardroom of Williams Logistics was silent. The view of Chicago was spectacular, but the mood was funeral. I sat at the head of the table. Vanessa was to my right. Jessica sat at the far end. She looked like she hadn't slept. She was wearing the same wrinkled dress. Brandon was there too. I had posted his bail at 4 a.m. $100,000. Not out of kindness, but because I wasn't done with him. He sat next to Jessica, looking small and broken. His arrogance was gone, replaced by raw terror. Why am I here? He whispered. I need a lawyer. You have one, Vanessa said. He's waiting in the hallway. But Mrs. Williams wanted a word first. A word. He spat. You set me up. You switched the glass. You poisoned my father. I defended myself. I said calmly. You poisoned the glass. I just redirected the delivery. You're a monster, he said. I'm a businesswoman, I corrected. And today, we are closing the books. Let's talk about why you did it, I said. The motive. We wanted to help you, Jessica lied. Stop it, I snapped. I hit a button on the remote. The projector screen lowered. This is your financial status, I said. The numbers appeared in red. Credit cards, $85,000. Maxed, mortgage, 3 months behind. Foreclosure notice, sent. Car payments, defaulted. Student loans. Jessica, $120,000. You are bankrupt, I said. You aren't sophisticated young professionals. You are drowning. You needed my money, not to protect the legacy, but to keep the repo man away from your Mercedes. Brandon stared at the screen. The market is tough. And then there's this, I said. I clicked the remote. A new slide appeared. Tech Leo startup. Total loss, $2.4 million. Jessica flinched. That was a bad investment. It was a hole in the ground, I said. But you kept it running for 2 years. How? You had no revenue, no product. Who kept the lights on? Jessica looked down. An angel investor. Anonymous. She was a saint, Jessica mumbled. She believed in the vision. I laughed. It was a cold, dry sound. She didn't believe in the vision. Jessica, she believed in you. Jessica looked up. What? I was the angel investor, I said. The silence in the room was absolute. I funneled $2 million into your shell company, I said, through 3 different holding firms. I knew your app was garbage. I knew you were failing, but I couldn't bear to watch my daughter admit defeat. So I paid for your delusion. I bought your dignity for $2 million. Jessica's mouth fell open. You gave me the money. I gave you a chance, I shouted, slamming my hand on the table. And what did you do with it? You burned it on office furniture and parties. And when the tap ran dry, instead of coming to me, instead of being a woman and asking for help, you decided to kill me. No, Jessica whispered. I didn't know it was you. That makes it worse, I said. You thought some stranger was saving you, but it was me. It was always me. And you repaid me with poison. Brandon was calculating again. I could see it in his eyes. Okay, he said. Okay, Dorothy, we messed up. We owe you, but you can't send me to prison. Think of the scandal. Think of the family name. I am thinking of the family name, I said. That's why I'm cleaning house. I slid a document across the long table. It stopped in front of Brandon. This is a non-prosecution agreement, Vanessa explained. If Dorothy signs this, she declines to press charges. She tells the DA, it was a misunderstanding. With her influence and without her testimony, the case likely drops to a misdemeanor or gets dismissed. Brandon grabbed the paper. His hands were shaking. Thank you. Oh God, thank you, Dorothy. I haven't signed it yet, I said. He froze. There is a price. I said. Anything, he said. I'll do anything. The price isn't for you, I said. I looked at Jessica. It's for her. I slid a second document across the table. This, I said, is an irrevocable renunciation of inheritance. It states that Jessica Williams voluntarily forfeits any and all claims to the Williams estate, trusts, and assets, forever. Jessica stared at the paper. Mom, this means you get nothing, I said. No millions, no house, no bailout for your debts. You leave this room with the clothes on your back and the debt in your name. But how will we live? Jessica asked, panic rising. That's your problem, I said. Work, get a job, drive a truck. I don't care. I looked at Brandon. Here's the deal, I said. Jessica signs that paper, and you walk free. If she doesn't sign, I give the full video and the blood evidence to the DA, and you go to prison for 15 years. The room was silent. Jessica looked at the paper. She looked at her husband. Brendan, she said, I can't sign this. If I sign this, we're destitute. We'll lose the house. Sign it. Brandon hissed. But it's millions. Brandon, we can fight the case. We can. I am not going to prison, he screamed. He grabbed her shoulders. You useless idiot. You wasted $2 million on a fake company. You owe me this. Sign the paper. But you said you loved me, Jessica stammered. You said we were partners. I loved the lifestyle, he spat. And you lost it. Now, sign the damn paper, or I swear to God I will divorce you before I even get to the cell. Jessica looked at him, really looked at him for the first time. She saw the monster I had seen for years. She looked at me. Her eyes were pleading. Mom, please, don't make me do this. I'm not making you do anything, I said coldly. I'm giving you a choice, your inheritance or your husband. It was the ultimate test. If she had a shred of self-respect, she would let him go to jail. She would keep the money, or try to, and rebuild. But Jessica was weak. She had always been weak. She picked up the pen. Her hand trembled. I'm sorry, Mom, she whispered. She signed. Vanessa snatched the paper before the ink was dry. She checked the signature. She nodded to me. Done, Vanessa said. I signed the non-prosecution waiver. I tossed it to Brandon. You're free, I said. Legally. Brandon grabbed the paper, clutching it to his chest like a shield. He stood up, smoothing his ruined suit. Come on, Jessica, he said. Let's go. He didn't even look at her. He walked to the door. Jessica stood up slowly. She looked at me one last time. Mom, the Bank of Williams is closed, I said. Permanently. Get out. What about Richard? She asked. Dad, he's facing assault charges. Richard is facing assault charges, I said, and the restaurant is suing him for damages. I imagine his legal bills will consume whatever is left of his fortune. You two deserve each other. Get out, I roared. Jessica flinched. She turned and shuffled out the door, following the husband who despised her into a future of debt and mediocrity. The door clicked shut. The silence returned. I stood up and walked to the window. The city of Chicago sprawled below me. Somewhere down there, Jessica was realizing that her safety net was gone. Somewhere down there, Brandon was realizing he was married to a broke woman he hated. It's done, Vanessa said. The transfer, I asked. Executed, she said. $40 million to the Thomas Williams Foundation. It will build a new cancer wing, 3 community centers, and fund the scholarship program for a century. I nodded. I felt light. The weight of the lie, the weight of the senile old woman act, was gone. They underestimated you, Vanessa said. They underestimated the cost of betrayal, I said. I looked at the empty chair where Jessica had sat. I felt a pang of sorrow, sharp and deep. I had lost a daughter today, but in truth, I had lost her years ago, to greed and entitlement. Today, I had just stopped paying for the rental. Let's get lunch, Vanessa, I said, buttoning my jacket. I'm starving, and I believe I have a scarf to burn. This story teaches us a brutal lesson. Appearances are deceptive. The people who smile at you may be holding the knife, and the frail elders you dismiss may be sharper than you ever imagined. It shows that greed is a poison that destroys families faster than any chemical. But most of all, it proves that true power isn't about money. It's about the will to do what is necessary, even when it breaks your heart. Have you ever had to cut off a family member to save yourself? Let us know in the comments. And if you believe justice was served, hit that like button. If this story resonated with you, leave a like and consider subscribing. You can also drop any comment below, even just one word. Maybe tell me where you're watching from, or what time it is right now. Sometimes one word is enough to say you were here.